At this Church of Christ?
In Kalgoorlie, yeah.
In Kalgoorlie?
Yeah.
January 1975.
January 1975.
45 years.
Since 1967, 53 years. This wasn't in existence, and it was the old wooden church next door.
So we've been here for 38 years.
In 79.
This is when we came. And we were here till 1984, and then we left, went to Melbourne for 3 years, and came back in 88.
Well, we started off as little kids when we went to Sunday school in Egan Street. That's where we started off, and I made the tent mission in the Commonwealth Park now.
Oh, wow.
Well, it was used to Commonwealth Park, just up the street from us, and Mum went up there, and she got baptised up there.
Oh, wow.
Well, I made my decision for Christ in about 1965, in this church, well, in the old church. A very big wood and tin building, very hot in summer, very cold in winter. A typical church building of the time, very high ceiling, peaked roof, and hard seats.
I started coming to the church through Sunday school in 1956. 64 years later.
I've been coming to Church of Christ Kalgoorlie for about 35 years. A little while before we got married, and then we got married in this church.
Well, the building was corrugated iron with a brick foyer. They'd added that in, I think, 1965. The congregation was small, 50, 60 maybe.
We came here for our honeymoon in 1974, and I remember standing in Kingsbury Park, and it was freezing cold because it was July.
It was like today.
It was like today, and I said to Larry, "Don't you ever get a job in a place like this." And that was fine. So the following year we went to Bible college, and in our third year, Larry said, there's 2 churches that want to talk to us when we're home at Christmas time, and one was Kalgoorlie. And Larry said, "How do you feel about that?" And I said, "Oh well, let's just go and talk to them." So we did, and we talked to the other church, but we just didn't feel comfortable, and that was a city church. So we came to Kalgoorlie, and I just felt right about it, and Larry did, because he's got Goldfields dust in his blood, so
So that's why.
that's why we came to Kalgoorlie.
I mean, the reality is God called us, but
Yeah.
He changed our hearts.
Yeah.
That's how it was.
And
Yeah.
God's got a sense of humour.
Yeah.
When I came back, and I just came to this church, and I married in early '68. I married a lady who'd been was a member here, and we had a family. And I'm not I don't believe in church hopping or going from here to there to there. I believe you put your roots down, and then you stay, and you contribute.
I needed a reference to get a job, and one of them was for Minister of Religion. And the only Minister of Religion I knew was Graham Carslake, who used to take scripture in schools. So I thought I'd do that, and I did. And once I got the job, my mother said to me, or maybe you should go to his church for a little bit as a way of saying thank you. Well, that was 53 years ago. I haven't finished saying thank you yet.
I think as a young girl, when I first got married, and just sitting chatting to May McLean, she's passed on now, but just, you know, really being inspired by these more mature ladies and their faith, and yeah, it just really encouraged me and inspired me as a young woman to be like her, you know, to grow into somebody who was old and happy and who still loved Jesus and could still just encourage other people. Yeah, that was a really good memory.
There's a lot of fond memories. I suppose there's a couple of funny ones. The baptistry in the back corner now, it used to be, it's always leaked. And there was one stage there where if you left the water in too long, then it would come out and damage the carpet. So as I was leaving the baptistry, I would pull the plug out, and usually it ran away. But then there was this one particular night, and it happened obviously in a quiet, because it's time in the service, and all of a sudden you hear this gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. So there's that, but there was also in the old church, because the pipes were so rusted, it took so long to fill up, and for some reason, I can't remember, we had a morning baptism rather than a night one, which gave you plenty of time to fill up. So it didn't fill quite as far as it should have. And as I was baptising the girl, to get her under the water, I just pushed down a little bit, and she panicked and she started to blow bubbles. and some young people in the front row got the giggles. So they stick in my mind probably more than anything else. So they're the memories. The fond ones are other people, and they always stick. They talk about having a pastor's heart, and often we talk about my people, and the purists get all, oh, they're not your people, they're God's. But they are. You become like a father.
That's my home. This is my home here, not in church. But I stopped there all that time. Yeah, we had our birthday out there, and I took photos of some of the crowd that was there. I had my photo taken with me thing on my head, yeah. And we had a good old time over there. Hear the pennies dropping, listen how they fall. Everyone for Jesus, he shall have a ball. And we used to walk out the front and put our pennies in the slot. Our poor old mum better to have a penny to give us.
The big thing for me was meeting with the other churches in somebody's church to pray. You know, so when all the churches started to meet together, or a number of them, I think we only had about 4 to start with, and to pray for the town, the city, town it wasn't, there's the city, and that was great. I think that meeting with the other churches was a real breakthrough.
And Georgie and I were married in the old wooden one. Yeah.
So you were married here?
Yeah. 1968. I do have fond memories of this building. You know, my kids were baptised in it, and Georgie had a funeral service here. I know that might sound a bit more, but it wasn't at the time when I was an absolute wreck or anything like that. I just accepted that she's now passed into a Heavenly Father's presence. It's odd to include that, but it's something that happened. It happened to all of us, but I was married for 47 years.
My sister and I both made a decision for Christ on the same night, which was a Sunday school anniversary night. Oh, wow. Which was something you sort of just remember. I met Dennis through the church here.
Oh, you met Dennis?
Yeah,
Oh, wow, there
yeah,
you
through
go.
the youth group here. So we'll have been married 50 years this year in August.
Oh, really?
In the old building, the anniversary, Sunday school anniversaries, at that stage I was involved. I was the song leader of the Sunday school. We were married in the old church. Our children were born while we were still in the old church. And just the people we've met. Over the years we've been together in this church, there have been so many people that have come through that we've made friends with and remained friends with.
We've had good times. We had, when we were kids, we always had our picnics in Kalgoorlie. We caught the train and caught the prospector down to Kalgoorlie. And when we hopped off, run for your life and get a tree with a tree there, so we can sit in the shade.
This is a church.
Yeah.
This church, all the time I've been here, has always had a strong profile in the leadership of this community, and tried to build that bridge of understanding of what our church does. Very important, because people often ask, why are we here? Right next to Target, and of course, part of the negotiations some 12 years ago was actually sold 3 blocks of land as a board to Target, and that's why the developer came back and said to Ron, you were really nice to deal with last time, so maybe we can have a conversation about this piece of land here again. So that's where those negotiations began 3.5 years ago to expand and to move. And even with a little story with the developer we've been working with for the new site, when he said 3 years ago to me, Ron, so we've got to keep this top secret so that I can buy this land if you're willing to sell. I said, yep, I'm good for my word if you're good for yours. And he couldn't get 2 of the parties he couldn't find one party, and one was going through a marriage breakdown, so they weren't willing to sell. So he said, I think this won't happen. And I said, well, Greg, would you like us to pray as a church? He goes, well, I guess so. Yeah, I guess, that's where we're at. So then I said to a few different people through Larry, and then we asked them to pray. And then Greg, with a complete astonishment, rang from his farm down south while he was on holidays and said, Ron, I can't believe it. I've got these 2 contracts in my hand. I cannot believe it. I've been doing this for 30 years and I thought this was all over. And I said, well, we believe, you asked, we prayed. We believe if God wants us to move ahead, then these things will happen. And so we've had that continuing journey with him and testifying of what God does.
I don't really have a lot of emotion about leaving. I think because we're leaving to something new. I don't have a lot of sentimental attachment. I know I don't want to be here when they knock it down. I'm happy to drive past afterwards because often, as I say at funerals, it's your memories that you keep. So the building is where the memories were made, but the building doesn't contain the memories. So
it'll be sad to not be on this site, only because we've been here 120 years. But still, the Lord is shifting us and giving us giving us a new building. And so if He's in the move, well, that's fine.
We're not wedded to this place. We're not wedded to it. I don't take the view that you have to stop here. This is it. It's obviously I believe God is behind the move with the property, and they've got the little shop at the front, church at the back. We don't we don't stand in the way.
And as you know, Sharon was saying, there's wonderful memories, lovely encounters with God. Because in your process of growing in God, it's always renewed, that passion and growth. And I can remember lots of experiences in there, or over there, where the stage was there, and here, where, you know, God has really spoken clearly and led and guided us as a family. You know, our children all grown up here and gone on to serve God. And those are things. But then there's the other part of me who loves change and has basically driven this new project and got very excited about seeing this whole new space come together for what it'll mean in our community.
Well, I think for me, I'm a little bit more sentimental, and it's probably a bit more of a process for me, because it's nice to have had time to think about, oh, we are going to move and build. So I've had a little bit of time, I suppose, just to be okay with moving. Yeah, it's just you know, a lot of people have been married here. A lot of people have, you know, their lives have been celebrated at the end, and there's just so much significance for so many people and so many families, and the connection. You know, even just having my kids here, and that's where they grew up. This was their sort of first spiritual home. So many important memories as such, but that's what we build on.
And some of those times there where the congregation went down substantially. Yep. And at one point, I can't remember when it was, but I had a point where I remembered that, well, I thought that I would be the one that would close and lock the door to the church and just hold the key. And it never happened. We've gone from strength to strength, yes. Yes, continued growth on the new site. And that's a new history will be written when we move to the new site.
That we'll still continue to do the things we've been doing, as in reaching out into the community and letting the community know we're there for them, and not always only in a crisis time, but at any time. The strengthening of the relationship between the churches.
Oh yes.
That's grown amazingly so. We just sort of see that as needing to continue.
I have, my first hope is actually a fear that people don't think that we've arrived and become complacent, because to me the new building means that we're on the journey, and that we will continue to be relevant and use the facility both to enable us to be relevant and to minister to the community.
There's a lot of interest in town of our building. That's one of the things that's really amazed me, is you can walk into a shop and people will say, how's your building going? And you sort of think, how do you know that I belong to that building? But it's really interesting, and I really think that there's a real interest, and I'm sort of excited to see what's going to happen that way, because someone actually said to me the other day, oh, when it's finished I'll come and have a look. And I thought, oh, okay, it's exciting.
Well, that we'll continue to be relevant. The men and women and boys and girls will be attracted to it, and as a consequence attracted to God.
You've got to move forward, and you've got to do what the Lord wants you to do. Otherwise, it's not going to work anyway. You fall flat, and the church would dissipate if you weren't in His will. Moving forward, and I believe God is going to change the way we do things. Somehow or other, I'm not quite sure how it's going to work out or what, and I'm sure He's got all that in hand. That's not my problem. I'm happy about that. But and I believe that, we can grow and we can flourish and we can be a useful part of the community to meet the needs of the community, but also we need to grow in not so much in numbers, but in our relationships with the Lord.
And I think one of the things that I love most in my memories about this place is the way that we have connected to community, and that doesn't change because of location. It's about the people connecting with the people, and you know, we're showing God's love to those, whoever we're talking to, touching, helping, even having a laugh with. It's nice.
See, you know, I find it hard to even verbalise the excitement I feel about the renewal that our church will have in the new location, because because we're not losing anything. We've still got the 122 years worth of heritage, and we're actually building on that. And that's such a strong foundation. You can build, if you want to put it this way, a mighty tower, a strong building in the community, because it's not going to fall over. It's built on a wonderful heritage and foundation that we've had for decade upon decade.